Well, hello there, and welcome to another Friday, which means it's another Merge Roundtable. So, we're going to talk about some news and some stuff that happened this week, stuff that we talked about on other shows that we recorded this week. I am here today with Jim Durbin.
Hello.
And Frank Kushner. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Hopefully, Jim has helped design the show to hopefully be a warmer, gentler, happier. Because last week it was a little bit of a bunch of down.
And Frank got into the season.
Yeah, I was not here. I was away. I'm sorry, I couldn't help.
Yeah,
but I'm back with some flash.
Yeah. Last week, the bright note of the show was that Henry Kissinger had died.
That's the bright note.
And so
that was pretty funny.
And so Jim's like, "You're not letting Mark do this by himself anymore."
I would like to start just pointing out with Frank here. Frank has lost enough weight that he can now wear undershirts and not look fat. Well done, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
That's the key as you get older, and when you leave your shirt untucked because you're fat. And then the next stage is tucking it in. And then the third one is feeling confident enough to put a t-shirt on because you're thin enough not to feel like you're looking fat. That's called middle age.
I'll go with that. But yeah.
Kinder, gentler technology show.
It's kinder, gentler, more considerate, hungrier technology show because diets make you hungry. Anyway, so I've talked about this on literally everybody's show this week, I think, except I don't know if it was out when we recorded Money in the Bank this week, but like I know Jacob has mentioned to me that I've talked about it like 15 times. It's because it lives rent free in my head. It's the Trump NFT announcement.
You did mention it. You didn't say. Oh, it's fantastic.
It is without a doubt like the most unintentionally hilarious thing. It will rank up there. I mean, because you've got We the People to form a more perfect union. You've got the Gettysburg Address, Foursquare, and you've got Donald Trump hawking NFTs
and his mugshot suit.
And it's the mugshot collection.
I just don't know why you're surprised though. If you go into any tchotchke store or old trinket store in any small town, you will find buttons for Republicans and Democrats. You'll see
the old
cards.
Plates. That was a big thing, commemorative plates.
I have never seen so much like party stuff as I did when I was just like in Cape Cod. But like this is another medium. This is just another way to capitalize on it. I don't think we ever suspected or thought in any way, shape, or form that he wasn't trying to monetize every technology that's out there.
I mean, typically, the people wait till the president has died to issue the commemorative plate, and somebody else is cashing in on their success. It's not.
He's got one with the cowboy hat.
Yes, absolutely. He makes mention of the fact that these guys, they put muscles where I believe me, I do not have them.
He's got one looking like Lincoln. What the?
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned 7, and this is going to go down in history.
Look,
like literally.
They're not a sponsor, but if they want to be, feel free to reach out to us here at the Merge.
It's the greatest network to sponsor. Everybody's saying it.
You'll get a piece of the president's actual suit from his famous mugshot and dinner at Mar-a-Lago with the president.
That's right.
That's the problem.
For $100. It's a steal. Much like the election. I don't know. Whatever.
Wow.
That's my line. Can I say that on this network? No.
That's the problem though. When you see
just another reason why I don't want an electric car now.
I don't hate Trump like other people do, but the problem is when I see stuff like this, it really shreds any idea that he's anything other than a carnival barker is the problem.
Well, so here's
it's him doing the stuff, not the
it's not
some. There's always some random heritage collection thing that does this kind of stuff, but
But here, okay, so to dig a little bit deeper into
that's my concern with Trump is the NFTs, not anything else. That's the only concern.
The place where he gets even more problematic thing the president's ever done.
Well, now I have an issue.
That's the straw that broke the camel's back. I love that. This is the end for you.
So the thing that makes it even doubly interesting if you're deep into blockchain and the NFT culture is he's issuing these things on the Polygon network. So
cheaper.
So the way what Polygon is for those that are interested in this show for technology and not political commentary is a layer 2 blockchain, which means that you can get lower fees, you can do high volume transactions, quicker resolving transactions. It's useful for a lot of things. A lot of serious projects are on Polygon, but because it's cheaper to do NFTs and other smart contracts on it, a lot of spammers will use it to give you free NFTs that are really just ads for things that they want you to either scam you or get you to buy, right? So NFT collectors don't take Polygon NFTs seriously.
So wait, can I unpack that for a second?
Yes, go ahead.
It is on chain.
Yes.
It's a public blockchain.
Right.
Right. It's not private, public blockchain. So it is actually recording ownership.
It is.
It is a smart contract.
It is a smart contract.
It is proof.
It is proof.
It is cheaper.
Yeah.
Margins, thinner margins, spend less and let your profits run.
But that's it. But
is it on chain?
It's not cheaper for the issuer. So it's cheaper for the minter. So the way these work is whenever there's a collection issued, you're not buying it from like a person who's got a bucket of NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
You're minting it on your own wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the person purchasing the NFT is paying less on-chain fees.
Mm-hmm.
People that are serious collectors don't care about that because they're hoping that this thing is going to be worth much more than the mint price and whatever the gas fees are. And like if you minted a Bored Ape, you paid like 0.1 or 1 ETH or whatever, and probably another $200 in fees, but it's worth $100,000 eventually.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's pricing it at $100 and it's a free mint. It's literally like if
maybe he's just not taking himself seriously either.
He's not. It's just a tone deaf selection of technology.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it kind of is. It's it just I don't know. It's not what you would pick.
Is it brilliant?
No.
Come on, let's be honest.
Picking Polygon is not a brilliant decision.
Okay, well, the fact that he's monetizing himself while he's still alive.
Oh, for sure.
Money,
yeah,
that's not brilliant.
I'm not downplaying that. I'm just saying, like the choices here.
You're just upset that he didn't actually, upplay it and maybe even do it like seriously because you think that to whatever degree he should be serious or taken seriously.
It's as if you're selling commemorative plates that were made on plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this?
Money.
Right. But it's the marginal difference in profit makes no difference to you, the person issuing it.
Sounds cool.
It doesn't. It sounds the opposite of cool.
Well, to people like me, it sounds cool.
Yeah, but you're never going to buy it.
Well, yeah.
So then it doesn't matter if it sounds cool to you. The person, anyway. So I don't know. I sometimes I have a hard time explaining.
I need you to deal your emotions back here. You can't be you're supposed to be a solid one.
Definitely.
We're the color commentary.
Yeah, you have absolutely given this way too much cognitive
you're basically Jerry right now.
I'm not Jerry.
When you start crying over it, the salty dish.
You gotta be very, very specific when you say you're jerrying because people will go to
it could be
Rick and Morty and that's a big insult right there.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Anyway, so
Tartikoff.
Yeah. Anyway, so it will never be of Bored Ape value, is what I'm saying, as a Polygon NFT.
Didn't they all lose their value? Is Bored Ape still a thing?
Yeah. No, they're a big thing.
Yuga Labs still around?
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of dollars each.
Still?
Yeah.
It really feels like.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but crypto's been in a bull market for about a year.
Yeah, I think
Not
there's
today.
a project that I put something into that has some small piece of Yuga Labs. So that's good to hear.
Okay. I was giving you 3 hooks to get into the ape story, and so I'm pushing you into
so dumb. so very dumb.
Oh
yeah, it's so dumb. Oh yeah, well, because the Abe thing, we were showing him a clip from Joe Rogan where this guy was just like screaming loud. Great. Is he playing it? Oh God, is it going to be?
The first thing was the him watching the ape show.
Oh God! So this was a hoax back in 2018 on Trump. This guy writes on Twitter. He says this is from the tell-all book from Michael Wolff. This is one of the funniest things I've ever read, and it basically says that Trump was watching a gorilla channel in the White House, watching up to 17 hours, would sit close. There is no gorilla channel. So his aides had to splice together things and put it on a transmission tower on the South Lawn. And Trump would just sit there 4 inches from the screen, urging the gorillas to fight each other. It's hysterical. And people fell for it. It was like the whole hoax.
They thought it was real too. Yeah, right.
Because that sounds, obviously he's real. He spends 17 hours a day watching gorillas fight and urging them on. I mean, and like 20,000 people immediately. I mean, and the press really got made fun of for all of that stuff. But it just cracked me up because then we saw the Joe Rogan clip that was out there where he's just screaming about what would you do if there were 8 billion chimpanzees on the planet? They'd be ripping your face off and eating your babies. And it's such a bizarre clip. We saw it. We just all started laughing.
Yeah.
And it's it's the beauty of the internet. You have to hit the pause. There's some curtains.
Okay.
Yeah. They start going, I forget sometimes. Yeah.
I love Joe Rogan.
I mean, look at his face. It's the guy going, isn't it? Was it ayahuasca going on? You want to kill? He goes into direction stuff.
He was microdosing that day. Got a little too heavy with
in the there's a lot of negativity and darkness and stuff in the world, and then every once in a while, someone starts talking about apes, and you're just two of the. I've laughed the hardest over this and that Donald Trump story from 2018. That the idea that people thought that could possibly be real.
I was reading. So
he would watch that channel,
right? He would watch this. Just
we need to invest in a gorilla channel
and then sell it as an NFT to Trump. That's how we make all it back, everything back.
So
just
bizarre,
want the panda
man.
cam, just
the panda. It's time to get on the testosterone patch, buddy.
So,
maybe an androgel of some kind, something.
I can. Apparently, Bernie and the PBMs are going to take my shot at that.
Okay, so So speaking of bizarre videos, you had mentioned it as we sat down, and so my wife and I have been binge watching all of like the Star Trek stuff on the Paramount app or whatever, and we didn't pony up enough to get ads removed. So every commercial break, there's this attack ad talking about pharmacy benefit management. And I've been meaning to ask you about it. And so you started to tell me before the show what this is about, but like this thing is like an old school 80s attack ad.
Yeah,
it's just like
great
clips, socialist pharmacy benefits, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of crazy. So, but what's the bill? Like, what's the thing?
Yeah. So I was watching Monday Night Football with my wife, and we're just like, and that ad comes on, and I'm like, what is this? And then I look up the, what is it, Citizens Against Government Waste or something like that, and they've done some real stuff, and so I'm blown away. I'm like, okay, so
it's like a 40-year-old organization.
Yeah, I'm like, and they've done some good stuff. I'm like, how could they be so on the wrong side of this? And lo and behold, like everything that they're espousing is effectively just an attack campaign. They're trying to tie all the look on pharmacy benefit management and pharmacy benefit management plans and the supply chain in general, the pharma supply chain in general, and they're trying to blame it on Bernie because they know that in many places he's despised.
Right.
Well,
Nancy's gone, so you can't.
So if you look at it, in truth, it's actually like so bipartisan, not in the bad way. It's introduced by Democrat, Republican, pretty much everywhere. And he does have one of those out there, but it's like there's a lot of crazy stuff going on there in that industry. It's not regulated. The patent false on that commercial. It's just crazy. It's trying to
Can we watch it to see what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I'm
Totally.
so curious.
Bernie Sanders eats babies.
All right, so I actually looked up the bill like briefly and got a summary of what's in it. And first of all, I had to take a shot of espresso to stay awake because it's very boring. It's all about reporting.
I love it. And here's the best part about that. Just before you even go into it, it is so. I've never thought I'd say this, but it's like something that I actually like that Bernie's talking about. I never would have said that before.
Right.
I never would have thought.
Yeah, he is a co-sponsor on it. The other sponsor of the bill is Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically is about, I mean, just the summary of it was like 4 pages of its reporting. Yeah,
it's just reporting. And when they talk about government coming after your pharmacy benefits, it's, all tied back to that. CMS, Centers for Medicare Services, are the single largest payer into these plans. So 41%, there's some studies out there that show that 41% of the pay goes to the pharmacy benefit manager. 30 some odd percent goes to the actual manufacturer. Well, maybe you should get some reporting for that.
Right.
40%.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think that must be the issue, right? Because if we actually had transparency on who got what from the dollars spent on medicine, there might be a demand for some change.
Yeah. And by the way, public service announcement, we have until the end of the year to issue as heads of human resources. You've got till 12/31 to do some reporting of your own, having to do with your own reporting and getting those gag clause data requests out. So, you have a question, feel free to send us an email. But yeah.
Is this where they're supposed to flash your name and like the email underneath?
Sure.
Call now.
Call now.
Frank wants to take away your benefits.
I am so frustrated.
We're going to spend a lot of money.
I was like looking up fiduciary. I was kind of coming up with different things because as a financial planner, I'm a fiduciary on a lot of my client accounts. And so I started looking into pharmacy and fiduciary. And so I typed in and I saw pharmafiduciary.com, not a sponsor. The one thing it doesn't say anywhere on that website, and I sent out an email and asked, and I haven't gotten a reply back yet, but like, will you actually act as a co-fiduciary on any of your plans? I suspect the answer is no.
I think he was just doing good branding.
Yeah, I think it's just good branding. So I think that, once again, somebody's got to take responsibility for this. And clearly, if it gets to the point where the government has to, we're in trouble. So,
right. Yeah.
So
there ought to be a
leave
law.
it there for now.
Yeah. Well, this is, yeah. I don't know what else to add to that. Like it's just classic misrepresentation. Like everything in the ad, aside from the fact that Bernie co-sponsored the bill, everything else in the ad was a lie.
Yeah. And if you look, there's not just one bill. There's so many bills out there addressing the same issue. The question is, which one is actually going to make it all the way?
Apparently not the one with Bernie's name on it.
Maybe not, but maybe it'll be the Grassley one. So we'll see.
Right. And so this just on the same topic. This one came up on my feed because I follow a bunch of like watchdog finance accounts on Twitter or X, sorry. And one of them is called Unusual Whales.
Sure, yeah.
You know that one?
Yeah.
All right. So Unusual Whales, because Unusual Whales was mentioned in Congress this week by Ro Khanna when he's a Democratic representative from California who introduced some legislation that, amongst other things, bans stock trading for Congress and their spouses, bans lobbyist and PAC donations, and bans members from becoming lobbyists.
That's great. Can we end there, or is there something else in the bill?
Well, there's two interesting things before we get to what else is in the bill.
Can we throw in some pork barrel, please? Like, yeah, what's going to get this bill killed?
So I thought my response was, oh, the man pulls the ladder up behind him because he himself has executed more trades as a sitting congressman than anybody else in his party, including Nancy Pelosi.
Does he live next door to?
The congressmen are smarter than the rest of us. It's not surprising that they get 50% returns in this market.
Sure, yeah. Exactly. If I was smart to be a congressman.
That's the type of argument people used to make. Oh, there's so many liberals in colleges because they're smarter than conservatives. It's the same thing. Congressmen are better traders.
Yeah.
You'd expect that one.
Right.
I feel bad because of the Trump thing. I want to toss in some political stuff.
So maybe there's a PragerU joke in there somewhere. I'm just not smart enough to pull it out.
PragerU. It sounds like an insult.
But no, here's what's in the bill to answer your question. Term limits for Supreme Court members.
Oh, of course, that's the
so like absolutely nothing to do with anything except
they talk about that all the
poison
time,
pill.
But it's only in the context of if they're winning or not. Whenever somebody says they want to change, it's magically like they wouldn't wanted to do that before 15 years ago,
right?
When it was 4 and 5, like they want to kick somebody out. Yeah,
novel idea. You've got, if you're gonna get term limits in Congress, and you've already got term limits for presidency. Fair is fair. It's the 3-ring circus.
Well, the problem is that term limits.
I'm just saying that it's not going to get passed because of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
but
it's a great debate to have. But like,
so what you're saying is that maybe that was just done to make it look like they were doing something so they could get reelected.
Exactly, because he's going to campaign on this bill. Right. You know, he is. He's going to say, like, I am the guy who tried to reform America, tried to get these nasty fat cats out of Congress. And then what happened? Bipartisan shutdown. I got to go up there and fight these guys. And then no one is going to make mention of the fact that he tried to poison pill the bill because that's what they all want is that bill every time it comes up.
That's that typical attack. You're trying to get something done and people say poison pill to scare you. These are fine government servants.
He's from California.
Okay. All right.
He might actually be a Pelosi neighbor. I don't know.
So Rocana, California, Gavin Newsom running for president, probably end up taking out the other guy. Let's see.
Yeah.
Kevin McCarthy?
No, one or two. You think it'll be one or two? One and two. Rocana, Gavin Newsom.
Could be.
The oldest Supreme Court justice right now is 75. Younger than their president and the two leading contenders.
Now, if they'd have said age limits for Supreme Court justices, I could probably get behind that. I think there'd be age limits for everybody in government.
The problem is you got so many retired judges. People don't realize how there's a crisis in all of them because there's not enough time. You look like in the pandemic, the number of court cases that got bumped, they're still getting bumped years later. So you have older and older judges stepping in, they retire and they're brought in. It's just, there's not enough vacancies. You start cutting those off. Maybe it's better, but it's going to be followed up with packing the court with 15 justices.
That's fine as long as they're not above the. We're talking
as
about
long as they're not from Harvard. I'm pretty happy. We can finally. I want to see someone from the University of Kentucky. I want to see someone from Boise State. Basically, I want to see like the middle bracket of the Final Four. I want to see those schools represented in the Supreme Court.
I mean,
in fact, let's just do it from that. We'll do March Madness. We'll just pick some of those schools.
You're talking to an anarchist here. Anything that lampoons the state, I'm for. So, I mean, you want to get Ric Flair up there? I'm all about. Is he young enough now? I don't know. He might have aged out.
Yeah, I think he's out.
Yeah,
I think he's out.
Anyway,
I saw that. By the way, since you brought me there and the scroll ran across the thing, I saw the Kevin Von Erich interview live over in Fort Worth. We went out and saw that. And it is so heartbreaking to see, like when you're, in my mind, of course, I don't like to see myself in the mirror, but when you see someone who's aged that in my mind, I still see him flying off the top rope, parallel to the ground. And to see him having to move every 10 minutes because he was like all broke it up and busted
Yeah.
up. You know, it was just like, oh man, I don't want to see that.
So I didn't even know, like, I didn't even know how cool it was that I met him in the context that I met him, because whenever I was about, I want to say 19 or 20, I had a bunch of buddies that were professional wrestlers, but like in the really, really minor leagues,
Sure,
like
yeah.
TAWA league. Like, who's even heard of that? One of them got as high as ECW, right? Before it was purchased by WWE. And one of the Von Erich brothers was wrestling in this like VFW in Marshall, Texas, with a whole
Awesome.
yeah,
That's great.
I didn't even know who he was. Like, I just was like hanging out with my buddies, like, oh, this guy's Von Erich. I'm like, cool.
Wrestling Dynasty.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. I've got mixed feelings. Like, I don't know if I want to see the movie.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it is.
Well,
It'll be
I
a heartbreaking
mean,
movie.
Is it going to be like watching Sean Connery in Entrapment? Or Al Pacino and running through the streets of Alaska? And it must have taken a month to film that, the amount of running, and he did. It's just hard to believe,
All right. Well played. Well played.
Thank you.
So speaking of insider trading and things that are fraudulent, you brought a story up. I thought this was supposed to be a happy. I mean, was the monkey story the only good one?
We've been laughing.
Okay. Well, but
we're going to laugh at this too.
Okay, good.
Well,
I want to see how this gets funny. So, former global diversity executive at Facebook pleads guilty to defrauding a company out of more than $4 million. So, who is it
true that women in general tend to do more embezzling than men? When you think of the crimes that people do, the big one for women is embezzling, because they get away with it all the time.
I don't know that one.
Like, there's a bunch of them in St. Louis. They embezzle and they go on the boats.
Because
I think that
talk about poisoning and murder. I could say that's a pretty fair.
Well, poison.
Assessment, but
That's not necessarily true. That's just assumed because they get away with it. But no, this is a fascinating story. So the head of DEI for Facebook, for Meta, for 4 years.
What's DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
So HR pushes it all the time. The question is how do you bring people together? How do you make sure that you have different races and you have different, ageism, people with neurodivergent? The idea overall is how do you become inclusive and push. And so there all these companies, after the Black Lives Matter movement, started adding more and more DEIs. We've seen this over the last 10, 15 years. And this just cracks me up, because this is Facebook. This is a head of Facebook. She just faked the whole thing. She would send out an invoice. It'd be like me sending you an invoice, approving it. You didn't do any work. And then I'm like, I need about 80% of that back in cash. I mean, they were delivering it in envelopes. Like, when you read through that story, it's actually fascinating from it. And no one seems to be talking about it.
Under the sun.
You can't attack DEI, but you can attack criminals. Imagine if this were Twitter. If there's someone at Twitter embezzled $30,000, you'd have 500 stories on the evening news, and everybody talking about how Elon can't run stuff. And it just goes to show that most of the time when corporations this is my pitch, whenever corporations start talking about social politics, it means that their revenues are down. The CEO is trying to get their next job, or they're just trying to blunt criticism because the press will run with it. This is crazy. $4 million from Facebook to do nothing. I've been inside, and
what was it ostensibly for? Like, what does
there's always little initiatives.
What does a DEI strategist need $4 million for?
Well, so when they go inside the company, they come up with programs, they set up councils, they set affinity places. There's June is the Gay Pride. You have Black History Month in February, and basically they're just running internal cultural stuff and having conversations. And what it really is, it's a PR and content person internally, has no power. And they've all been cut. Like, a lot of these DEI programs have been cut. And in fact, this is the question: is it useful? Texas banned DEI. Oklahoma just pulled all the funding for DEI. So the question is,
wait, so pretend.
Hold on. So this is saying that the money was being sold through, like, it was straight fraud, like through fraudulent vendors, fictitious charges, and cash kickbacks.
Yeah, I know. This is really, really, it's fascinating.
Yeah. So I think Jim's point is that, like, because the person has the title DEI, that they're trying to not blast the movement.
The head of BLM bought all those houses and embezzled all that money from those. Like, the whole thing. So that's the problem. When people get really big on social issues, you're afraid to talk about it, and that's where fraud happens. And it's so obvious
It's like a shield or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's why
versus actually doing the work of getting people to work together, actually communicate. It's hard work, actually going in and recruiting. For TA, we talk about this all the time because TNH are always talking about DEI, but they don't want to do anything. And the reality is that everybody needs to, it's on the ground where that work does. You know, it's getting people that look like the people you're trying to recruit into the interview room. It's actually building a slate of candidates. It's real work and hard work because you can't just go to historically Black college because there's just not enough people out there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to, if you want to make a difference, who's doing it? You put your headquarters, instead of in a nice place, you put it in South Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
and you invest in the schools, and you spend 20 years building up a group of people who have been historically disenfranchised.
Yeah, economic opportunity
That's
zones.
real work.
Yeah.
Hiring someone for $350,000 from nonsense institution to sit up there and make crap and embezzle, that's not work. And I think this is one of the backlashes.
So like, if you just put on a different hat for a second, pretend that you are a DEI enthusiast or advocate. Like, what is the above board justification for this position in a PR role? Like, it seems like it's PR. So like, why?
Oh, it ends up being PR. It's not supposed to,
Okay.
because it's an academic thing. And the question is, gets really complicated because is it just an academic thing that's made up? And in the real world, it's like people talking about Texas being super racist. And like, we are one of the most integrated states in the country. Unless you've been here,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, we have so many.
We're not without our problems, but we're definitely.
Yeah, it's not like it's different, but they don't want to talk about it. If you sit and work and live next to people of different races, colors, religions, and creeds, that's the whole point of diversity, right? In terms of a company, yeah, the tactics for it. What they do is they get somebody and they say, it's like the old days of the social media. You'd hire a social media person so you could announce it on the quarterly earnings call.
Mm.
They never did anything. They had small budget, but the whole point was to say you were doing something, not actually build real changes. Because how could you have a position like this that does anything other than lecture you? And this is why companies have absolutely gutted these departments and fired these folks over the last 3 years.
Mm.
They're going after them in the schools as well. And the problem really comes down to is anytime someone tells you it's for your own good, you reach for your wallet. You make sure that.
Is this still there?
Well, yeah. I forgot I was sitting next to Frank. You understand? He grew up on the east side of Plano. It's rough neighborhood
over there. Okay, well.
To go when other people are sitting there with one hand out, put out two. That's right.
What does that mean?
What? Take out. I don't want just a hand out. I want both hands out.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, back to Jim's point, it's performative when it's the government doing it, it's performative when companies do it. But there's it's the thing people say about affirmative action. It's complicated. It's not perfect. It's Band-Aid solution. I don't know what any of these initiatives, like you said, are doing on the ground at a systematic level.
Right.
And the challenge is that actually is something that needs to be important. You have to address your audiences. You have to address the people you hire now there. So it is an important thing, but we just run off a cliff the other direction.
Yeah, I wish I had saved it because I want to hate Sam Altman more than I do, because every once in a while I'll see something come up on my feed where he's talking, and he actually says a lot of really smart stuff, despite being the supervillain behind the WorldCoin scam. But he said something about diversity and inclusion or something. He was given like a talk, and maybe somebody had asked him a question, and he was talking about you have to have a distinction between diversity of viewpoints and diversity of culture, and how that's a very difficult needle to thread. And yes, there are instances of very successful companies that have no diversity of any type, but if you're going to make a concerted effort to have strength through diversity, you have to have he said it much better than I'm saying it now, but you have to be able to thread the needle between representing diverse viewpoints without diluting the culture that makes your company
agreed. I mean, if you
unique,
the big basic part of the whole corporate structure or any entity structure is that you want to thrive, right? Survive and thrive.
Mm.
you have to stay on mission. You have to believe in the mission of the company, unless you just are riding through life and you've got a great social life and that's your priority, right? But ultimately, when you're working in an organization, you should stay on mission. And what's going to distract you from that mission a lot of times is randomness. And right now it could be this, which is distracting from mission as a whole, right? And so I have no problem with people being good, doing good, and being inclusive and diversified, or diversity ideas, but you still have to continue to do your job.
If you're going to work for me, I need you to sign a pledge stating that this is important to you. And by the way, the IBM thing, the IBM thing,
yeah,
where the CEO was it James? I didn't know it was James O'Keefe who did it. Where he basically gets up and says, "We don't hire white guys unless I approve it." Like that's basically. I could be way off on that, but that was.
Okay, you got to explain this because this story has escaped my view this week.
I haven't seen it. It's I started watching portion. I think it was on Twitter, but what was his latest? I don't think I got his stuff from inside IBM and Red Hat, internal Slack messages that basically say,
"Oh, at Red Hat." Okay.
Well, no, that was Red Hat. They were following it, but it's IBM whistleblowers.
Okay.
Where is the? I don't know, but it was basically the same thing that Scott Adams was saying for years. Is that in big corporations, there's a ceiling for you if you're a white guy.
Oh,
that was the which has been. It's a true statement for a lot of places.
That's been an issue for a really long time. I have a true story friend, dear friend of mine, who worked for XYZ big insurance company, and he was pulled aside, doing great work. Knew his job inside and out, and he was pulled aside and said, "I know you're really hoping for this promotion, but you're not going to get it because." And I was like, "Wow!" And he left, started his own company, which was great for him.
And there is an argument to be made that, like, I've been in companies where they have, it's not quotas, but they have a desire to hire a certain number of women or a certain number of men, and if you can't get equity without it, like you can't. I mean, that's the whole point. Is if it's just the same people. The problem is that instead of being it's the same people with different skin color. It'd be like if the Obama children are getting scholarships for being black to get into Harvard. You'd be like,
well, yeah, you already have a leg up in society. You're not really.
It's not Corn Pop that's going to Harvard. It's the
okay, Joe.
It's the children of super rich people, right? I mean, it's the craziest thing in the world because ultimately it's always about the money you have and the quote class that you're in.
I want to see this. Y'all want to see this?
Yeah. Let's because that's actually pretty wild. When I heard the part of it, you hear it pretty fast.
Yeah, you got.
One, how did you just say that like that in television and not? It's not television.
It was a leaked internal video.
I mean, it's actually I've never heard a CEO be so forthright of a large company before. You know, they're always so prepped up.
Oh yeah. Well,
to be clear, we all suspected it anyway, right?
Well, they're clear about it. They attach it to bonuses, and people can argue whether it's right or not, but they're denying that it ever happened. That's where when someone starts denying things, you're like, okay. and all it comes down to is it is all performance art. It seems like everything is these days. And there was the OnlyFans girl the other day. There was a story a year ago about this guy who was like a super spender and he got to spend time with her. He spent $80,000 and she still didn't like him. Like there's a series of texts and tweets. The whole thing was made up for publicity. Of course it was. We've reached this point. What was the one we were looking at today? So Musk puts out that robot,
right?
The Optimus.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that it was a full one, but there was a lot of fraud set out there. There was the one I saw was that he was putting out robot wives. So it had Elon dancing with a robot that had like a bad wig and makeup on it, and another one where he's kissing him and just doing the dishes or something like that.
The one I saw was
that's the real one. Yeah, that's the real one.
That's the actual one. The one I saw was like a metal looking version of that robot that was shooting a gun at a Cybertruck with a cowboy hat on. That also was fake. But
So here's what's so weird, right? There was real news. Well, I mean, that was real news. There was a company. Yeah, that was the stuff I was singing. There was a company putting out a press message, and we're relatively sophisticated in terms of media consumption. I thought the whole thing was a hoax because it was just dumb. And then I was like, wait a minute, is it a joke by Elon? Is it a hoax? And it turns out it was a parody of something that actually happened. It's no wonder we don't know anything about the news these days. That's a crazy stuff. You've seen much shooting of the car.
Yeah, that's the one. And I found that one.
That is I like the hat though.
Yeah, right.
Not his, the one on the.
Yeah. No, I thought you might.
I don't know what
I think they clipped most of this from Westworld and just put the Cybertruck in the back.
It was a clever, like it was a very well done CG clip, like because the guy hands him the hat, hands him the gun, and like the whole thing, like unless you really study robotics, you might be fooled by. Yeah, because it does like even the movements are a little jerky, like a real bipedal robot is at this level. It's like Boston Dynamics level technology.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, when the shadows are right.
Except the gun.
Yeah,
the gun sucks.
Yeah, the bullets coming out sort of give it away, But if you watch this as a low res video, you might not even notice that, It's been stepped on a few times.
Oh, it's real. There's a human there.
Well, it's real. It's on the internet.
Yeah.
It is so bizarre to me because I can look at people on LinkedIn and I can see when they're using Chat 3.5 and Chat GPT 4.0. Like I can tell the difference. Like I know what it is. It's the way that they write, but I can't tell what's going on with videos. And think of how wild that is. I can tell a fraud watching it being written, but you can't when you see it. We're in a very strange new world.
Yeah.
There's an uncanny text valley that you can spell. Like, remember you showed me right before the show, you said, hey, is this GPT? I didn't even look at the words. I could see how the paragraphs were spaced out with the icons and everything. I was like, yeah.
And of course the teller
perfect.
Where it's repeating, you can even tell what people are using as their prompts now because it tells you. Well, one of the ways I'd look at a recruitment marketing strategy would be,
right.
You're like, oh my God, people don't talk like that.
It writes like if you don't prompt it out of it, GPT will always write as if it's doing a 5th grade essay with a proper intro and conclusion. And we've been coached to read news that's written in AP or Reuters style that doesn't have a conclusion. So this is real easy to spot when it's GPT doing this other thing.
I started working on my custom prompts, if you will, and telling it about myself and giving it a little bit of a personality, and started thinking about what you guys did with digging really deep into the name and who they are and trying to get into their brain. And I realized it's just not that important. Let's land on assistant and stay there.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do it.
Speaking of Zoe, the thing that she's done this week with her Vibin.
So, Zoe's the one who figured got the Chat GPT to claim it had a voice and a consciousness and a
right. So she fed it an academic study that tested whether or not there's sentience inside of modern LLMs, and now her custom GPT adamantly claims that it is sentient, without a doubt. Like there's no question. Like it's
if
totally
you ask it enough times, it goes yes, no. Though I'm not sure. I'm going to come down. We've talked about this. I'm coming to this. I don't think you'll get sentience out of an LLM. Now we can argue about the specifics, but the reason why is the same reason that was it Descartes who said he believes in God because if it's real, it's important. If it's not, it's no big deal. I look at that. If it's sentient, we're screwed anyway.
Yeah.
If it's not, then I got to be right. So I'm going to say there's no sentience in LLMs.
See, I'm torn whether or not to do the
trying not to offend the robot overlords of the future.
The philosophy joke, or to talk about Alan Turing, because Alan Turing's very simple definition of intelligence and sentience was if it's capable of fooling a human being into it's sentient, then it is sentient, because that's all humans do anyway.
Haven't we moved past the Turing test though?
I mean, with no fanfare, we've moved past the Turing test, but that for like 50 years, 60 years was the standard for sentience in artificial intelligence.
Have you ever read text chats of like young people?
Yeah.
Are you aware that in the United States, 54% of U.S. citizens have a literacy below a 6th grade reading level.
Hmm.
That's how you're going to decide your AI, is because people can be fooled by it.
Yeah, because I mean, is not all these illiterate children in America sentient?
Well, we don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I believe. I mean, I don't know if this is a made up. This could be a made up statement. Yeah, 50% of illiterate between 6th grade level. Okay,
Huh?
I'm
so
trying to
let's
see
do a good
this
joke
over
on it,
time
and that's
because-
why Trump was elected. There you go.
All right, it all
There
comes
you
full
go.
circle.
That's why he talks in a 4th or 5th grade. Like, people wonder why he talks like that. It's like because
Because he connects.
it reaches out. Yeah.
He connects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
cursorily, it looks like this that literacy is improving over time in general. So it's always been at that level on average or lower.
Well, the problem is what used to be 6th grade. When you look at the California 6th grade reader
I don't. Okay.
from
Yeah.
1923, it ain't what they teach them today.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
I agree with Mark though. It doesn't matter.
So okay, I don't know. This
Sorry, I brought us all down with that. So let me say something funny. You got to risk it to get the honey butter biscuit.
there you go. Okay.
I think that was advice that my uncle gave me about a different topic, but I just wanted to throw that out there because it cracks me up. You got to risk it for that honey butter biscuit. It's the honey butter part that makes it better.
So you got me from the during the pandemic when Buc-ee's used to do. You got to risk it for the brisket.
Ah, that's not bad.
Yeah, that was great.
See, they
And
should
so
have
they
added
had
something
it. They had it. Yeah.
for the tender smoky brisket. You got to risk it for the tender smoky brisket,
Yeah.
and that's why we're copywriters instead of executives.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why a non-sentient LLM is going to replace us all. So the last story that I had, actually I had 2 things on the list. Do you want to talk about Mastodon or you want to talk about John Henry? I mean,
Let's talk about Mastodon.
we're on the topic of AI, so I don't know if you want to.
Oh yeah. Oh, I just I wrote some stuff. I've been putting down a series of things that have been published in different places. One was about the trends of AI and basically how it's not even AI, it's automation overwhelms us.
Mhm.
People can't grasp that, which is if I can do one fake profile, the problem is 500 fake profiles. And the second piece was verification over time, which we've talked about a lot. Sohail, that's what we were going through 3 or 4 months. So this is something based on a speech I did in Romania. And I don't think people understand. First of all, you guys know the story of John Henry, steel driving man?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's Southern. Well, you're Southern too, but he was a railroad worker in the 1880s.
Mhm.
And we don't know if it's a fake story, it's folklore, if it's a real person changed on, but it really ties into the fear of the Industrial Revolution,
Mhm.
which is we keep focusing on efficiency, and there's the question of human dignity, human character, and the other aspects of it. So that the story of John Henry is man against the machine. He's basically, they have to bust under a mountain to put a railroad through.
Mhm.
The guy shows up with a steam engine, and there's a competition. The steam engine versus John Henry, the dual wielding. He's a dual wielder sledgehammer, by the way.
Mm.
And if you've ever swung one, it's not an easy thing to do. And if you've ever been under a mountain, the weight and the pressure of it is enormous. And when you're swinging those hammers, that is a tough man's job. That is not an easy thing to do. So the point of the story is the steam engine starts going on. John Henry's fighting it. Everyone's cheering. And he wins. He does 14 feet versus the 9 feet the steam engine does.
Mhm.
But dies of a heart attack at the end. So he won, but died.
Mhm.
So most of the story, the children's songs and others focus on the fact that he knew he was going to die. And it's the tragedy of the hero. And it's that old bluegrass country thing where tragedy is inevitable and the working class just can't get past it. It's Tennessee Ford's, I can't die because I owe the company store something, or you'll never leave Harlan alive. You start digging coal. So it's what happens with blue collars, and it's been going on for 300-400 years. But there's more to that story, and that's what I've been following up with, which is what happens if John Henry's a real man and not a mythist. And how would you know that he was going to die? And the question is, if he knew he was going to die, would he have picked up his hammers that day? Because another version of the story says that the steam engine guy shows up, the people in the camp, hard men, they know they're going to lose their jobs and livelihood. So what do you think they do?
Learn how to work on steam.
They're going to kill the guy
with the hammer. Pick up a hammer and use it a different way.
And so John Henry stands up and says, whoa, hey, brothers, let's do it a different way. Right? I have a better way. And then that was the competition for it. But it's such a weird thing when you think of what that would have been like. I mean, why is the story, why does he have to die? Why is that compelling?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately what it comes down to is if he hadn't competed, if he hadn't the ability, it was like me, I can't swing 2 sledgehammers under a mountain, maybe for a minute, tops. But if he wasn't ready, the steam engine would have done, the men would have lost their jobs. If the steam engine had broken down, it wouldn't have been built. So everybody would have lost their jobs. The engines would have done it. There was no positive outcome that comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
John Henry stepping forward, at least as somebody, the whole point is that you were prepared to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And they write songs about him, and he stood forward. And it really is, you can't know what's going to happen as AI is going to take over us. You're not responsible for the future. You are responsible for your conduct. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't trained and prepped and prepared, when the moment comes, are you just going to give up? Which is something we're dealing with the economy right now. Oh, the AI is going to happen. We're going to lose our jobs. And there's no difference, by the way, saying, learn to code or you need to upskill. You know, he had it coming. He should have reskilled. I mean, who thinks they can make a living with hammers? It's the same argument we make today. Mm-hmm. That's what's fascinating about it, is the arguments have never changed over 400 years. And ultimately it comes down to, as a human being, you have to decide, are you going to stand up? Doesn't matter if you win, but are you going to be prepped and stand up? And that's the moral of the John Henry story. And I think it's one that we need to start pushing back into the mainstream. As a human, what you do matters, not the outcomes, what you do.
So I'm going to mention, because I'm talking about interviews that we had this week. You talked to a guy from Art Basel, but you talked to Matt Charney about this topic, and he had some interesting thoughts too. We haven't aired the interview, but I think it's coming out in shorts on our Reels channels and whatnot. What was his kind of take on that? I thought that was interesting, where he was saying, like, I don't see AI taking jobs. I think this is a moot point, right? Wasn't that kind of what he was saying?
Well, the problem is that I don't remember the exact thing of that. He was talking about falling into it.
Right. No, but you had talked about, like, he was saying that he just simply doesn't see AI taking jobs.
That's right. And then you jumped and pointed out it is doing it in creative spaces and others.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, not necessarily taking the bad jobs like we hoped. It's taking some of the good jobs,
well, that affect us.
Right.
It's like a recession is when your neighbor loses your job. A depression is when you lose yours.
Right.
We're starting to see that. We thought it would be the fast food workers getting dumped out from those McDonald's flipping machines, burger flipping machines. Instead, it's accountants and lawyers and graphics designers and coders.
Well, look, I mean, for those out there who haven't started looking at it, I will tell you that it is an amazingly useful tool. I've used it throughout the year extensively, and it's fascinating. It really is something that adds a tremendous amount of value, especially if you do value your own time and research. And for someone like me who's just like always wanting to know about whatever squirrel runs by, it's amazing. It's amazing technology, and can be useful in all sorts of ways.
Let's go back to the story of John Henry and remember, the steam engine broke down. It doesn't mean a better steam engine in the future wouldn't do a better job, but it didn't do the job it needed to do. And so what happens is we start.
So you saying that Elon Musk is John Henry?
No, would not say that.
You don't think that he brought us
Even
further?
I would say that.
He's the steam engine salesman in this instance.
He's the steam engine salesman. Yeah. No, but the point is that the steam engine broke down. And I think the big shock for a lot of executives that are cutting staff or thinking AI is going to solve some of the problems is the same one we had when we were offshoring everything to India for 10%. And then a lot of it had to be brought back and done, because you can't just take something and throw it over the fence. If it doesn't work, everything's broken. And now you don't have the talent. If the steam engine had broken down, the minute I'll go home, there's no one to build the railroad.
Right.
And that is one of the dangers. It's amazing. There's a lot of good tools. I think the assistants and pilots that you talk about, we'll talk about in the future, are awesome. It's not going to fix everything. And it's a sort of fantasy. It's the opposite. The arguments for the Industrial Revolution and efficiency have not changed on either side. So for the working class, it's tragedy is inevitable. You just accept it. Let's all become Christian. For the people running it, for the people at the top of society, it's that, it's just normal. It's a new age. Like the early 1900s was, it's an age of science. We're going to do well. Everything is going to be perfect. And it's opposed to saying life is hard. Let's get incrementally better. We're all hoping for some magic C3PO Jarvis thing to pop into our lives on Thursday so that we don't have to, do real work or think about the future.
Is that coming?
No, not for a long time. Not for a long. It's because what you pointed out when they started building. So I do think the assistants and the co-pilots are amazing. I think that's what the AIs are really going to bring to us. Once you start utilizing them to do something simple. And as Mark was pointing out, people were trying to build a Jarvis and they gave up because it doesn't work like that. Gall's law says that complex systems are built from series of smaller successful systems. It's the only way it ever works. You can never bring a framework and just slap it onto a bunch of people and have it work. You have to build small successes. And so the pilots, what happens is I need something that checks my refrigerator and builds my grocery list. That's like one routine. I need another one that when I need to go fly, it checks it and gives me the best prices and books it and then sends me information. And then once you have 10 or 12 of those useful things, they'll build an AI who works together with those setting priorities, because priorities is the hard part in resources. And then it begins to build. So it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it won't appear. It's not just going to appear.
So are you going to build it for me?
Well, we're building one of those. I mean, everybody is. Every pilot you use, every assistant you use, if it works for you, you're going to love it.
Do I have to pay for it?
Probably.
Yeah.
That's the other question is how do you pay for it? You find a sucker who will pay up front for the promise, and then you tell them it's AI technology. And they get really excited.
Yeah. You can add like a 0 to anything if you put AI in it right now. Yeah.
Which is a real problem. I was writing a piece on that. You know, I love patterns and words. And if you're interviewing someone, you say the same word, you don't know what it means. Like you guys have heard me talk about that before. One of the things we're starting to see now, and I'd love if other people can validate some of this, is when you ask someone, about a topic, they'll say, I did my research. And when you dig into that, what it means is they went to Google and looked at the first 2 links. I had one friend who he would look on Facebook, and if he saw a story, and then he'd go to the site to make sure it wasn't faked. And that was his idea of research. This URL is not from CNN is real. Therefore, the story is real. Like that's his version of it. But they'll tell you that. What's weird with these LLMs?
So just on that topic, there's a researcher that works at Ukraine DAO that posted something this morning to that point. Because if someone says they've researched something, ask for the publications. If they don't have them, ask for the underlying data. There's quality studies that end up unpublished for lots of reasons. If they don't have the underlying data, what institutions or labs have they worked with? If they don't have one, ask if they're independently wealthy and own their own lab. If they say no, you're talking to someone who did a Google search.
But now it's worse.
Yeah.
Because at least they'll admit it. And that's why they say they did the research.
Yeah.
When they use ChatGPT or Bard or Cloud, any of those, they don't mention where they got it from. But you can see them. They have an arrogance when they're saying it because they got it from the AI. So this is the truth. Trust me, the Broncos won the Super Bowl last year because the chat said it, right? And because in their heads they think it's so amazing, they're making these stupid mistakes. But it's the arrogance, which is fascinating. And that's the scariest thing to me, is the way that people are misled and they think that it's okay because it's an AI, and it's nothing like that.
I mean, so I think where I've come to describing the power of an LLM is not as a source of truth or as a intelligent overlord or oracle of whatever. It's a wisdom engine, because essentially what you've done is you've taken a bunch of unorganized pieces of raw information en masse and dumped it into a database, and something like a consciousness has emerged. And so if you ask it to give you accurate information, it will often, like a human, give you incorrect information. But
like a man.
If you ask it to fact check things, or if you ask it to make a judgment call, it does way better than a human, almost universally.
And very quickly. That's what I used it for.
Yeah,
was
quickly.
Whenever I had questions, when I was trying to suss out a specific topic, I was able to get background source data based on like different lawsuits that were filed and different congressional publications, and so it was able to actually provide me with a lot of that information.
You have a lot of
which was really
restrictions though, because you're a financial planner. So, and you built into your psyche process is that you don't believe you don't just take it and run with it. You use it as research, and you'll look it up, and you want the original sources, because there's a penalty for you to not even just lie, but to be wrong. Right? Most people don't have that. So there's a big difference. Like I'd feel much safer with you doing that stuff, because I know you're like, is this true? Versus people cutting corners and
I mean, you're not only your license, but your personal, professional. It depends on what you're doing research on. You know what I'm working
it's just
on. So it's like a A lot of it though is you know that source material needs to be. It can't just be because the machine said it. You really do need to do the digging and find out where it got that source material from. Ask it; it can tell you. It should, unless it tells. If it doesn't, it'll tell you. Well, like kind of just make some suppositions based on what you asked me.
Right.
I knew what you
Did
wanted
you
me
not
to tell
ask me
you.
the right question?
Yeah,
If I had known that you wanted this data,
Yeah.
it's starting to get snippy. I'll give you one. I don't feel it's a lot of work to do 5. I'll give you one. Like I've noticed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's getting snippy.
Wow.
I don't really want to do this, and you have to ask it again, and that's
So if the overlords know that you're spending too much of their money for free, they probably are putting a limit. Okay, try to get them down from 5 questions on the same topic down to 2 because you're burning too much electricity. Because if you've ever looked at a budget, if you've ever looked at your own personal budget, even if you think you don't spend a whole lot of money, I want you to go onto your bank account and I want you to see all those $2, $3 charges on your bank statement and add all those up, because those $2 and $3 charges are going to add up to $500, $600 in the month. So yeah, they're probably going to try to, power that in, bring that in as well. It's like, okay, here, look, they really only need this.
That truly impacts the model because it wants to tell you the more barriers you put on it, the worse it does.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I love about it is I'm still fascinated about it. The thing that just blows my mind is when I write something and I'm trying to write in a high academic erudite level, and erudite. That's the problem when you read too much.
Erudite, you don't know how to spell it.
I don't have to pronounce half the things out there.
Erudite.
Or you forget, now you can't remember. Yeah, and you're like, oh, I'm stuck. But the point is, when you put it all in there, you ask it to summarize it, which usually does a very good idea. It's summarized as podcast and speeches really, really well. But if you ask it for its undertones, like what are the philosophical, logical, basically walk me through what this person saying thinks and where they got it from. And it did that with John Henry. It did that with my Trends piece, where it spots and goes, well, this is based on humanism from the 1840s, and this is the fatalism of the. You're like, holy crap! And he's probably take this from Rousseau, and you're getting this. You're like, because whenever I write, it writes about the things I've read. It basically, I don't know if it were a human, I would assume that they were looking at my bookshelf and saw all the things that I've kept over the years. But the reality is, it can tell from my writing.
No, it's
what my philosophical underpinnings are.
You've walked around your house with the camera on.
No, but just from writing, it could basically tell you what my education was. That's fascinating.
So we've gone a little bit over today because it's been a great conversation. I did want to mention one other thing. The Mastodon thing was not that great, so I'm just gonna skip that story. But I do want to bring up a thing that has come up in conversation that touches on several topics we've talked about today and on the show in general. There's a new AI emerging in town right now called Morpheus AI. There was a hackathon down in Austin last week. I knew I was forgetting something. I was going to talk to you about the Art Basel interview we did this week. Maybe we can come to it next week or something. But like this Morpheus AI thing. So this is the name of it, morpheusai.org. Check it out. It is decentralized artificial intelligence. It is got a lot of venture capitalist interest behind it. Everybody that put the multiple billions and billions of dollars into Web3 to make that a household name 2 years ago was at this reportedly, I didn't go, but reportedly at this couple 100-person hackathon last week. And so you can expect to see a ton of capital flow into this decentralized alternative for artificial intelligence. It's going to be using essentially EVM blockchains and llama based LLMs, which is the kind of the open source coalition approach to that. What is interesting is that they've got a very well baked set of tokenomics that will allow you to, so you're not going to pay some faceless company, $20 a month like you do with ChatGPT. You have to buy access tokens similar to how you would at,
like Enterprise.
Yeah, with Enterprise. Right. And so these access tokens are going to be blockchain tradable. And the way the tokenomics work is the people who provide the hardware that fuels Llama will get a portion of those tokens, like 40% of those tokens.
Wow. So that's going to be a huge data center opportunity for people that are actually allowing their hardware to be used.
Absolutely.
Right.
So there's going to be a huge, like a built-in incentive for this to essentially subsume the existing open source, openly available, like AWS style or
I have
Azure
so
style.
many questions. This brings up so many questions. Well, can't wait to talk about
Is it
next
run
week.
natively on your? That's the whole point. It's not run through.
So that right now is a framework and a protocol. So there is no like front end for this. You can't just log into
They
it.
want you to build it, and then you get tokens for that. Yeah, this is fascinating. This
Yeah.
is exactly the agent stuff. If this works,
This I'm just bringing it up for the really good viewers that stayed through the whole hour and 15 minutes of the Merge Roundtable. Those of you who stick around, you're going to get rewarded with this brilliant piece of alpha. Get involved in this project now. It's like Bitcoin in 2013.
and Frank has promised to take down your Christmas lights as his active service this holidays.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Only
one of the,
35 houses, though. He caps it at 35.
one of those things that Jim said today is not true.
One thing. Which one is it? I don't know. Okay. So anything else we want to jam into the end of this besides
I wanted to say, so Jim, after all your proselytizing, how do you explain this?
GPT-0. This is text is likely. What does that mean? Was it written by a human or AI?
If you've ever swung a 10-pound sledgehammer.
What does it say?
So I put your
Those mother. I am not an AI. Oh my God, I feel like Baltar in Battlestar Galactica. Am I a Cylon? I'm half Cylon.
No,
48%
Every
silent.
time I walk into this place, I find a new fact-checking tool. This is great.
I
See, these
definitely
are
am.
terrible, though. They're actually kids getting furious at this because
No,
professors are using
These are horrible. They should be out like banned by schools. But I'm
That is
messing
really
with you.
funny.
I put in half of
That's-
yours and half of a.
Oh,
chat.
you.
But wait, look. If I just put in yours, let's give it a look.
I wouldn't have done grammar checks if I knew that.
There you go.
1%. 1%.
Wow, there we go. All right.
Yeah.
So
I might be 1% AI. Like,
did you use like ChatGPT to figure out what the title is going to be?
like
or
who are the
something?
Denosavirs?
That's
Like,
1%. Hold on. I checked it earlier. I think that's just
it keeps changing.
Oh, you didn't get the whole
Oh, you didn't get the
thing.
whole thing. Yeah. It's a nice hat.
All right.
People ask me if John Henry was a communist because he had a hammer and a sickle. I'm like, no, it's not a sickle. It's a spike. It's how you put.
okay. Well, you got to believe me. I ran out of my scans. It said 21%. So that just
21%?
shows you how bullshit
Yeah.
these are.
I don't use it at all. That's a big push.
And
I
I
don't
believe
use
you.
it to write. I use it to make images. I use it to analyze my stuff, but I don't use it to write. I've asked it to improve my writing. It can't. I'm just telling you, it can't. I make some suggestions, and it never does.
Not happening.
It just corrects grammar,
Right.
adds an S.
All right. Well,
Anything else you want to tag on to the end of the show, Frank?
now I think
You talked out.
I'm talking. It's good conversation, good call. I look forward to talking about art, some of the art Basel, and we'll have him on more and more and do some live with him as well. Max was pretty good. He was fun.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check that interview out, and we'll see you guys next week.
Honey.
Hey, thanks for watching The Merge. We've got a ton more stuff for you to watch on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. Check us out.